So we've seen that Charlie didn't feel good to go to jail even in 1894. So he returned back from the third label. And that was that. I left the same way I came, I suppose. Next day during lunch hour, I drew $300 out of the bank, nearly all we had, and bought old style currency. So now here what happens is like Charlie had gone to the third label and he wanted to buy a ticket to Galsburg, Illinois, right? So there when he could not buy the ticket with his new modern day currency, he went to the bank to buy old style currency. Do you see how obsessed he was to go to Galsburg, Illinois, right? That really worried my psychiatric friend. That means he had even talked about this thing to his psychiatric friend, right? You can buy old money at almost any coin dealers, but you have to pay a premium to it, right? My $300 bought less than $200 in old style bills. So what happened is like he went to the bank and he drew $300 and he bought old currency from that. $300. So with that $300, he could buy only 200 old style currencies. But that didn't care. Eggs were 13 cents a dozen in 1894 because in 1894 it was quite cheaper. So $200 was more than enough for him, right? But I've never again found the corridor that leads to the third label at Grand Central Station, although I have tried often enough. So now see, right? He went to the bank, he took off all his money, almost all his money, he bought $200 of old style currencies and went to the third label. But unfortunately, he could not find the way to the third label again, right? Though he tried several times, he could not find the way to the third label. And Lucia was pretty worried when I told her all these things and didn't want me to look for the third label anymore. And after a while, even I stopped looking for the third label. Then I went back to my stamp collection. But now we are both looking every weekend because now we have to prove that the third label is still there. My friend Sam Wiener suddenly disappeared. Nobody knew where did he go. But I sort of suspected because I sort of doubted, right? Because Sam's a city boy. Sam is a boy who grew in a city. And I used to tell him about Galsburg, right? Now see, what happens is like, after he bought $200 of old currency, he went to find the third label, but unfortunately he could not find there, right? For many times he went, but he could not search the way to the third label. And finally, when he went back to the stamp collection, right? Finally, he went back to his old hobby, stamp collecting, right? But suddenly he hears that one of his friends, Sam, disappeared. Okay, nobody knew where he went, but Charlie somehow doubted that he might have gone to Galsburg because, in the earlier in the story, we came to know that Galsburg is a beautiful place, and maybe Charlie had talked about the same thing to his friend Sam because Sam was always a city boy. He had grown up in a city, and he wanted to see how Galsburg would look. So Galsburg is a place where Charlie had gone to school. I went to school there and he always said he liked the sound of the place. So Galsburg is a place where Charlie had spent his childhood, where he had gone to the school. And maybe he had described about Galsburg, he had told about Galsburg to Sam. And Sam, when he heard, he always wanted to be there. He wanted to see how Galsburg was. And so now Charlie doubts that maybe Sam has gone to Galsburg. Because one night, how did he doubt that Sam had gone to Galsburg is because, right, one night what happened, fussing with my stamp collection, right, when he was just looking around his stamp collection, I found, well, do you know what a first day cover is? Here, just look at the book, right? The narrator says, do you know what a first day cover is? Now, what a first day cover is, when a new stamp is issued, stamp collectors, right, the person who has a hobby of collecting stamp, those stamp collectors, they buy some new stamps and used them to mail envelopes to themselves on the very first day of the scale, right? So what a first day cover is, when the first new stamp is issued, the stamp collectors, they go, they buy those stamp, and they mail the envelope to themselves on the first day itself, right? Because the postmark proves the date. In the post office, what happens, they put a seal, right? Seal along with the date. So when the first new stamp is issued, the stamp collector, they go and buy those stamps, they mail that envelope pasting this new stamp to themselves, right? Because if they mail the envelope, the postmark is there along with the date. That envelope is called as a first day cover. They are never opened because you've sent the envelope yourself. So why there's no need of opening that. You just put blank paper in that envelope. That night, among my oldest first day cover, I found one that shouldn't have been there. But there it was. It was there because someone had mailed it to my grandfather at his home in Galesburg. Right. Now, just a tricky kind of thing here. Charlie says that he was fussing upon his first day cover, and suddenly he found something which he never had found it earlier. Right? What was that? It was a letter to his grandfather at his home in Galesburg. That's what the address on the envelope said, and it had been there since July 18, 1894. The postmark showed that. The envelope, the stamp envelope, the postmark showed that. Yet I didn't remember it at all. Charlie is very confused because it was never there and suddenly it was there. The stamp was a 6-cent, dull brown color with a picture of President Garfield. Naturally, when the envelope came to my granddad in the mail, it went right into his collection and stayed there because, it was the first day cover and the stamp collector need to open up the envelope. Till I took it out and opened it at that moment. And inside the paper, it wasn't blank, right? It read, the address is given there, 941 Willard Street, Galesburg, Illinois, July 18, 1894. And the letter was for Charlie. I got to wishing that you were right. Then I got to believing you were right. And Charlie, it's true. I found the third label. I have been here 2 weeks. And right now, down the street at the Dalles, someone is playing a piano and they are all out on the front porch singing, seeing Nellie home. And I'm invited over for lemonade. Come on back, Charlie and Louisa. Keep looking till you find the third label. It's worth it. Believe me. Right? And that letter was signed by Sam. Now see? Right? Suddenly Sam disappeared and nobody knew where he had gone. But Charlie somehow doubted that he might have gone to Galesburg. And suddenly when he was fussing up with his first day cover, he finds a letter which was never there. And then the letter was written by Sam himself. Okay? I'll let you know at the end what happens. At the stamp and the coin store, right? After reading that letter, Charlie went to the stamp and the coin store. I found out that Sam bought $800 worth of old style currency, right? Sam had bought $800. That ought to set him up in a nice little hay, feed and grain business. He always said that what he really wished he could do, and he certainly can't go back to his old business, right? So here, the next day, Charlie goes to the stamp and coin store, and there he found that Sam had bought $800 of old style currency. And $800 of old style currency was more than enough in 1894, right? And then, Charlie thought about Sam once he had said that he really wished he could do that. He really wished that he could go to Galesburg. Not in Galesburg, Illinois in 1894, his old business. Why? Sam was who? Sam was my psychiatric friend. Right? So I know it's a bit confusing, right? Now what all this happened is all the imagination of Charlie. Right. I told you in the beginning that this story deals with the imagination of Charlie from beginning till end. These are all the imagination, the scientific imagination of Charlie. Right. He he found the third label because it was his imagination. Why is maybe he wanted to, he wanted to run away from the insecurities, the fear, the war, the worries. In fact, he was trying to escape from all this, and the escapism is used here by Charlie, right? So he talks about how he had found third label, right? He said that once he had gone there, he was in a hurry to go back home, and so he did not take a bus. Instead of that, he took that Grand Central Station. So in the first label, when he reaches the first label, he said that he met that, what do you call that, 20th century train. And in the second label, he said that the train was to leave to the suburban place. And then when he moved forward, he turned sharp left, and then there was a tunnel, and then finally he reaches the third label. And then he said that the third label was quite different from the first and the second label, right? For in the third label, it was like there was a brass button, small gate, the ticket counter was small, flickering light and all those things. Okay. Then when he tries to buy a ticket for Galsburg for his wife and himself, the ticket counter man, the clerk, he said that the money is not the money, right? Because old style money and the new currencies are quite different. It was bigger in size earlier, right? Then he comes back because he doesn't want to go to the jail, and then he also goes to the bank, buys all those things, and these are all the imagination, right? Then suddenly Sam disappears. Then he finds a letter from a Sam, and at the end he says that Sam was a psychiatric friend, right? So these are all what? These are all his imaginations. Okay? All right. So over with the story.